Right now, as you are watching this, the security arrangement that has kept your country safe for your entire life is collapsing. Not slowly, not in some distant future, right now. This week, 2 days ago, the President of the United States posted one word about the nations that stood beside America since 1949: cowards. Not behind closed doors, not in a private call, on a public platform, for every government, every military, every citizen of every allied nation to see. And then he added 4 words that no ally will forget. We will remember. Think about that. The leader of the most powerful military on earth just told his own partners, we will remember. And what happened next is something that has never happened before in the history of the Western Alliance. 8 nations, 8 countries that trusted America with their survival for 75 years turned around, walked away, and began building a nuclear shield without America in it. Now, before I tell you who those 8 countries are, you need to understand what they walked away from, because what just broke was not a policy. It was a promise that kept half the world safe for 75 years. Every NATO ally, including Canada, staked their survival on one belief: America's nuclear arsenal would protect them. You do not build your own weapons. You do not build your own shield. You trust America with your life, and that trust was paid for with sacrifice. After September 11th, America invoked Article 5, the only time in NATO's history that clause was ever triggered, and allied nations answered. Over 3,500 allied soldiers gave their lives in Afghanistan answering that call. Canada lost 158. The United Kingdom lost 456. France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Denmark, the Netherlands, they all lost their people in a conflict that started because America was the one under threat. I want you to hold that number in your mind. 3,500, because what comes next will make it hit differently. That is what loyalty cost. That is the price these nations paid for the promise that America would protect them in return. And the man who inherited that sacrifice just went on social media and called them cowards. Now, here is where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, because those nations did not respond with words. They did not write a letter. They did not call a summit. They did something that has not happened in Europe since the Cold War ended. And when you hear what it is, you will understand why the world just changed. On March the 2nd, French President Emmanuel Macron, the leader of the only nuclear-armed nation in the European Union, stood inside the Ile-Longue submarine base on the coast of Brittany, in front of a nuclear-armed submarine, and announced what he called forward deterrence. And I want you to hear what that actually means, because what he announced next has shaken every military planner in the Western world. France will increase its nuclear warheads for the first time in 34 years. The last time France expanded its nuclear arsenal, the Cold War had just ended. The world was supposed to be getting safer. And now, in 2026, France has decided it needs more. But here is the part that changed everything. France will deploy nuclear-armed Rafale fighter jets, carrying cruise missiles with 300-kiloton thermonuclear warheads to allied countries. Not symbolic visits, operational deployments. French nuclear weapons stationed on foreign soil for the first time in history. And here is where the cascade begins. And I promise you, each country is more stunning than the last. Germany was first, Europe's largest economy, a country that already has 20 American nuclear weapons stored at Buchel Air Base. Germany looked at those American weapons and started talks about carrying French ones instead. Chancellor Friedrich Merz confirmed it publicly. He said, and I want to make sure I get this right, that Germany is discussing whether German Air Force planes could carry French nuclear weapons. And Germany will participate in French nuclear exercises starting this year. Think about what that means. The country that has hosted American nuclear weapons since the Cold War is now preparing to host French ones. That is not hedging. That is not a backup plan. That is a replacement. And if you think that is dramatic, wait until you hear what came next. Poland, a nation that sits on the front line with Russia, was next. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said we are arming up together with our friends so that our enemies will never dare to attack us. Poland did not ask for American reassurance. Poland went to France. The Netherlands confirmed strategic nuclear talks with France, Belgium, Greece, Sweden. One by one, country after country, ally after ally. 7 nations that spent decades trusting America chose France instead. And then there is the 8th country. And what this country did is the single most extraordinary thing you will hear today. Denmark, a founding member of NATO, a country that lost 44 soldiers in Afghanistan, the highest casualty rate per capita of any nation in the coalition, 44 families that lost someone because Denmark honored Article 5, because America called and Denmark answered. And how did America repay that sacrifice? Trump threatened to seize Greenland, Danish territory. He called Danish forces 2 dog sleds. He mocked their military on social media. And then he demanded Denmark help him in Iran, a conflict he started without consulting them. And what Denmark did next is something no NATO ally has ever done before. Denmark's response was reported by the New York Times. They began preparing to dismantle their own airfields in Greenland, physically take apart military runways to prevent them from being used in an American operation on Danish soil. The country that lost 44 soldiers for America is now tearing up runways to stop America. Let that sit. And here is why every single person watching this, wherever you are, should be paying very close attention. Because what just happened in Europe is now landing at Canada's doorstep. And the question being asked right now is one that would have been impossible 12 months ago. Last week, a Danish reporter asked Prime Minister Carney directly, would Canada send troops to defend Greenland against the United States? Carney chose his words carefully. We stand foursquare behind the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. On France's nuclear initiative, he said Canada will not pursue its own nuclear weapons. But he praised Macron's framework. He did not close the door. And what happened next is why I had to make this video today. CBC, Canada's own national broadcaster, published an analysis piece yesterday with a headline that should stop every Canadian in their tracks. Should Canada follow? Should a country that shares the longest border on Earth with a nuclear superpower threatening allied territory and calling its own partners cowards start looking for protection somewhere else? Now, I want to be fair about something because this next point matters more than you might expect. NATO still exists. The combined military power of its members is still greater than any force in history. And every country joining France's framework has said this is a complement to NATO, not a replacement. But here is the question that no one was willing to ask until now. Is a shield still a shield when the country holding it calls you a coward and threatens to take your land? Here is what exists right now and cannot be reversed. No speech, no deal, no election can undo what has already been set in motion. France has ordered the first nuclear expansion in 34 years. 8 nations have signed on. Nuclear-armed jets will deploy to Allied soil for the first time. Denmark is dismantling airfields. And Canada's national broadcaster is asking whether it is time to find a new protector. Every warhead France adds sends a message. Every jet that lands on Allied soil sends a message. Every runway Denmark tears apart sends a message. The era of trusting one country with your security is over. Nations do not wait. Alliances do not wait. History does not wait. This is our security, our sovereignty, our future. The choice is ours.